If the Cardinals want to get to the college football playoff, then they must get off to a fast start.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Coming up on today's show, a full Louisville football schedule preview. We're breaking down the 12 games into 3 groups of 4 and talking about each pod on an individual segment. Now, previewing the opponents is going to be super surface level. The main thing I want to emphasize is the key themes that I'm associating with each section. And honestly, the first section of the season is the most important. It's going to be the most challenging. It's abundantly clear when you look at the schedule as a whole that the Cardinals must get off to a fast start immediately, right out of the gate. It's a non-negotiable. The past couple of seasons in 2024 and 2025, you've opened up the campaigns with a non-Power 4 opponent, a team that you're supposed to beat by multiple touchdowns. You don't have to play your A game to win by 40 to 50 points. Not sure you're going to have that luxury this season. You open up the season in Nashville, primetime game, standalone game on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is coming off of a college football playoff semifinal appearance, finished top 4 in the country last year, and they return their star quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, their star running back, Kewan Lacey, and they went to the portal to add some key playmakers this past offseason. No surprise that this team is number 10 in the college football playoff preseason coaches poll. They're probably going to be top 10 in the first AP poll as well. That's my guess. But long story short, everyone's going to be watching you in week 1. So you don't have the luxury of having a B or a B minus level performance in week 1, because if you do, you're possibly going to start out 0-1, and that makes week 3 become even more challenging. Now, I think that you must start out fast this season to have a chance to get to the college football playoff, and I'll explain a little bit more about that after we talk about week 3. So Louisville opens up against Ole Miss week 1 in Nashville, Sunday, September 6th. The Cardinals love those non-Saturday games. Now, they have a short week because they play on the following Friday, September 11th, at home, week 2 against Villanova. Now, Villanova is probably bringing back Pat McQuaid with the new 5-for-5 ruling and that preliminary court injunction. Who knows, but all signs are pointing to McQuaid being the starting quarterback for the Wildcats this year. And even if they didn't have him, they had the number 1 graded rushing attack in the FCS a season ago. They had a good season, went 12-3 last year. But when you looked at who they played, I think this is a classic case of a really good FCS team just being outmatched against a Power 4 opponent. The only Power 4 team they played in 2025 was Penn State, and they got blown out 52-6. So you're going to be expected to win this game, and if you don't, it's a huge upset, and we really have to have a tough conversation. Don't want to have that conversation. Don't think we will have to have that conversation. But Louisville handles business. They're going to win on September 11th, and it's going to set up a very important stage on September 19th. They're back at home week 3 against SMU. I mentioned it in the crossover show with Locked On SMU host Grayson Singleton last week. If you're an everydayer of the show, then you know that I view this game as the most important of the season. Week 3 is the most important game of the Cardinals season. SMU will start out the year number 20 in the college football coaches preseason poll, and the Cardinals haven't beaten the Mustangs since SMU joined the ACC. They lost in 2024 and got blown out on the road in 2025. Now, that was an everything went wrong type game. Deuce Adams got his first start. But anyways, you look at SMU and you look at Louisville, you see two teams that are in the projected top 3 of the conference. Both of these teams do not play Miami. Both of these teams have favorable conference slates. So logic should suggest that whoever wins this game and claims the tiebreaker is in a very advantageous spot. Now, theoretically, that's the case. But when it comes to actually looking at reality, perhaps it's not going to. And maybe this game doesn't hold the weight that I think it does when we get to late November, early December. But the way that I'm thinking about it is that, okay, the Cardinals open up against Ole Miss week 1. You have SMU week 3. Those are your 2 toughest games on paper. If you lose both of those games, you're putting yourself in a very deep hole. I'm not saying you can't climb your way out of that pit. However, you would have to essentially run the table. Now, I think the easiest and most likely way to get to the CFP is to get to and win the ACC championship game. So perhaps beating Ole Miss week 1 and losing to SMU week 3, you're still in a tough spot. That's why I think that SMU is the most important game of the season. But if you start out 1-2, you have to essentially run the table the rest of the way just to be considered for an at-large bid in the CFP field. Like Miami just went 10-2 last year, didn't have a bad loss on the schedule, beat Notre Dame early on, and they were the final team in the field as an at-large bid. If you're telling me that Louisville at 10-2 is going to be added into the field, I've got my doubts. So I think the easiest way to get to the CFP is to get to the ACC championship game and win that game and claim the automatic qualifier. The first step to doing that is beating SMU on September 19th, because there is a very possible scenario that unfolds in November, late November, when you're looking at the standings, and the Cardinals and the Mustangs are right there at the top, very close to the top. And whoever holds that tiebreaker has such a key advantage over the other. Because if Louisville loses to SMU, not only does SMU hold the tiebreaker, and I'm not saying that the Mustangs can't stumble down the stretch either. Like, of course, Louisville could have a great season and maybe SMU doesn't live up to expectations, but there's a real scenario out there where the Cardinals maybe lose one more game in conference play the rest of the way, and SMU loses 2 games, but still, because you lost on September 19th, you don't hold the tiebreaker. So, A, that's the most important game, but B, the key theme here is that the Cardinals must get off to a fast start. I think that looking at this first section, anything less than 3-1, and you're in a tough spot. Now, the Cardinals will end this section. They will end September on Saturday, September 26th, when they host Wake Forest. 3 straight home games. That stretch will end at the end of September, and they're going to host Wake Forest on September 26th. Now, the Demon Deacons are projected to finish 13th out of 17 in the conference. Now, these are preseason power rankings, according to the ACC media. It's not like a telltale sign, right? Of course, some teams are going to outplay their preseason rankings. Some teams will do the exact opposite. That's TBD. But Wake Forest in 23 and 24, they went 4-8 both seasons. They went 9-4 with a new head coach in 2025. So they took a great step in the right direction. They have a new quarterback this year, Gio Lopez from North Carolina, by way of South Alabama. Now, he was very good at South Alabama. 2025 at North Carolina wasn't great. Now, the Tar Heels offense was objectively bad. There's no getting around that. Was that because of Gio, or was that despite Gio? That's something that we're going to find the answer to early on in the season. Wake Forest projects to have a very good rushing attack. There's some question marks on the offensive line. They use the transfer portal to rebuild the trenches, but still have to see it. Defensively, I think the pass rush is their bread and butter. Langston Hardy is back, one of the best pass rushers in the Atlantic Coast Conference, but they play Miami the week before, so you're going to get a good idea of what this Wake Forest team is all about. And I think that if you beat SMU the week before, this could become a psychological trap game. The game against SMU is going to be very emotional. It's a high-stakes game. There's going to be a lot of emotions on September 19th. And if you win that game, you then risk a letdown game just psychologically. And maybe then Wake Forest becomes one of those trap games for the Cardinals, which Louisville has fallen victim to over the past 3 seasons. Each of the past 3 years, Louisville has lost to a team they shouldn't have. Could that be Wake Forest in 2026? I don't think so. But regardless, Louisville must start out at worst 3-1. October, more challenging to predict because October's theme is simply interesting October. I'll explain more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. Look, you know, if you've been to Cardinal Stadium, there's no shade. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be hot, especially during that September stretch and even going into October. So wearing a hat is an essential. And why not have a stylish hat as well? With hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary offer won't last forever. Get your daily Cardinals fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now. Get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonlouisville.supercast.com to claim your free trial. So we're continuing in this full Louisville football schedule preview, the first 4 games of the season. That pod is the most important one, in my opinion. Of course, they're all important, but Louisville must get off to a fast start in the 2026 season if they want to have a chance to get to the college football playoff, because they're going to set themselves up for a lot of success this season. Well, October is really hard to predict because 3 of the 4 opponents I really don't have a read on. I think the key theme for Section 2 of the schedule is simply interesting October. The Cardinals will begin that month with their first true road game in Raleigh, Carter Finley Stadium, on Saturday, October 3rd at NC State. NC State projected to finish 7th in the conference, so right in the middle of the pack, no pun intended. But from the people that I've talked to that cover NC State, there's been a lot of optimism this offseason, and maybe rightly so. They returned CJ Bailey for his 3rd season as the starting quarterback. And if you listen to the show, you know that I am a huge fan of Bailey. I think he is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this conference and getting better each season. No surprise that I am high on his game heading into his 3rd year as a starter. The question that I have about the Wolfpack is mainly centered around consistency. Like, when they are right, they can beat anyone in the conference. But the issue is that you never know when they're going to be playing at their best. And not to mention, close to 50 new players, 50 new players are joining the program for the 2026 season. Last year, they finished 5-7. Could this be the year where they have one of the more talented teams on paper that Dave Doran has ever had in Raleigh? Could they be in line for that season where they can put it all together? That's a very real possibility. And if that does become a reality, Louisville could be in trouble, because it seems like the Cardinals never play well on the road at NC State. It's a great home environment, one of the best home environments in the ACC. It's a tough place to play, especially if this becomes a night game. I don't think a game time has been announced for this contest, but that's going to be a tough game. Going to be a tough game. It could evolve from a trap game to just overall a game that's going to be tough to win. Because a trap game, to me, is one that you are hands down supposed to win, and you're going to be predicted to win. And it shouldn't be tough, but it can be. This is a game that I just think is ultimately going to be tough. So, on the road at NC State, I have to look at the Wolfpack schedule. I'm going to pull that up now because I want to see who they play before the Cardinals. At Virginia to start out in week 0, so going to be watching that game closely. They also play at Vanderbilt in mid-September, so you're going to have a little bit of an understanding of how good NC State is. Like, if they go into this game and they are a one-loss team, it's going to be pretty challenging. But if they have multiple losses, then we'll have to have a different conversation. But it's hard to determine how good this NC State team is before you watch them play. Louisville will have a short week and return home on Friday, October 9th for a primetime game against Florida State. Now, Florida State has to prove that they're going to be Florida State this year, and that hasn't been the case since their undefeated regular season back in 2023. 24 was an objectively bad year. 25 wasn't much better. They finished with a sub-500 record. Well, this is a game where just because of name recognition, you're going to talk about it more because it's FSU, it's the Seminoles. But honestly, this game could be one where you end up blowing the opponent out. Before this, they'll play SMU, Alabama, Virginia before they play Louisville. So you're going to get an understanding about what this FSU team is all about. And if it's like any of the past 2 years and they're already stumbling, I mean, the Louisville game could be the one where Florida State looks at and says, you know what, now's the time to make a switch. Mike Norvell is back, but he has perhaps the hottest seat in college football. Ashton Daniels, the Auburn transfer, is the new quarterback, and I've got to see it to believe it, Daniels, especially from a consistency aspect. Now, Deuce Robinson and Mekhi Danzy make up one of the best 1-2 wide receiver duos in the conference. Quintravion Wisner is the running back from Texas who transferred in. Offensive line is a question mark. Some concerns there. Defense, you've got some talented pieces, but you lost a lot in the portal. So this game, to me, even though it might seem like it's going to be challenging, once we get to early October, could be one of those where Louisville wins by double digits, just depending on the state of FSU football. Or it could be, devil's advocate, a very challenging game. Maybe things are different this year and they have that bounce back season, and you can tell early on that they're legit. But interesting October is interesting because you just don't know about FSU. Just don't know. Now, Louisville is back on the road week 7, October 17th at Syracuse on that Saturday. Syracuse projected to finish 14th out of 17th. Fran Brown had a very good first season in 2024, won 10 games, beat Miami. But last season, even though it started out well, 3-1, when Steve Angeli, the Notre Dame transfer, went down with a season-ending injury, everything just was hashtag not good. They finished 4-8, and it's kind of led a lot of the national media to be lower on Syracuse. My main question is, can the offense return to form with Angeli back and healthy, which all signs are pointing to him being good to go. They've got a really good receivers room, but the defense was not good. Second worst defense in the ACC last season. They did bring in Toledo's Vince Karras to be their defensive coordinator, but how much of an impact will that hire make? This could be the number one trap game for me. It's right after that Florida State game. It's right before a bye. Seems like the Cardinals have kind of struggled before and after bye weeks since Brohm has been here, so that could be an ultimate trap game. Week 8, you do have the bye. You'll return to action on Halloween. Week 9 versus Stanford on that Saturday. Stanford is projected to finish last, 17 out of 17, but I told you all, they did get one first-place vote. I have no clue. But they went 4-8 last season. Davis Warren is likely the starting quarterback, the transfer from Michigan, who did have his season shortened last year due to a knee injury. But when he did play, he wasn't good. 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Joining an offense that was 125th in total offense last year. The defense it's going to be up and down. Like, they bring some pieces back, but the passing defense was absolutely atrocious a season ago. And I'm hoping that it's not like 2024. But like, Stanford has not been good since joining the ACC. If Louisville plays to the level we know that they are likely going to be able to, they're going to blow Stanford out. So that concludes an interesting month of October. I think that there are some challenging games in that mix, but if they can handle business in October, once again, they will put themselves in a position to control their own destiny in November. But they've got to reverse the trend. They have to avoid the late season slumps, and 3 of their final 4 regular season games will be on the road. We'll break down the final section when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. I just watched my Houston Astros lose a weekend series to the San Diego Padres, and it was mainly because Fernando Tatis and Jackson Merrill could not stop hitting home runs. I looked at the FanDuel app, and there is great value for both of those players to hit home runs as well. And when you choose who's a home run before the game, it just makes everything more exciting. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Card Nation, thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Final schedule preview segment. Final section of the schedule. Final 4 games of the season. If Louisville is able to get off to a fast start, if they handle business and avoid trap games during the middle part of the campaign in October, it's going to set the stage for the Cardinals once again to have an opportunity to control their own destiny. 3 of the 4 final regular season games are on the road. They're going down to Atlanta in early November, Saturday, November 7th, week 10 at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got 2 first-place votes in the rankings in the ACC media poll. They are projected to finish 5th out of 17 teams. And Georgia Tech is the one, I think it might be the main one that I just can't get a read on, because everything should tell you, with the way that Brent Key has revitalized this program, that they're going to be able to reload. But you lost Haynes King, 3-year starter. Buster Faulkner went to Florida, very good offensive coordinator. What is that offense going to look like? Can Indiana transfer Alberto Mendoza be the guy? If he's not, do they have someone behind him that can step in and lead this offense to a high level of success? Like, quarterback is a main question mark. Running back is not. You got Justice Haynes transferring in from Michigan. Malachi Hosley is back. He had a very good year last year. Offensive line should be offensive line should be pretty decent. Pass catchers, there's some question marks there. Pass defense was not good last year. The team just couldn't force turnovers. That was one of the main Achilles heels for the Yellow Jackets defense. But new offense coordinator, new defensive coordinator. When you go to Bobby Dodd in early November, what is this Georgia Tech team going to look like? Because I see a situation where they start out and they're kind of holding their own. They open up with Colorado and Tennessee. They play Duke. They're at Virginia Tech. They're at Pittsburgh. Maybe this is a team that has exceeded expectations and they have everything to play for in November. Or maybe it's just clear that this is a rebuilding year for Brent Key's program. Regardless, I mean, you have to be disciplined when you play Georgia Tech, because if you make mistakes, they're going to make you pay. You're going to stay on the road. Week 11, you're at North Carolina Saturday, November 14th. Year one of the Bill Belichick era in Chapel Hill was disastrous. They went 4-8. They're projected to finish 15th in the conference this season. Offense, horrible last year. They scored 25 touchdowns. They had that one drive against TCU to start the season, and everything else was horrible. Bobby Petrino is the new offensive coordinator. They're going to have a quarterback battle. I think that there's 3 potential candidates to win that job. Quarterback has to be good. They weren't terrible on defense, but they lost a ton to the portal, to the NFL. How's that team going to look? By late November, maybe North Carolina has an interim head coach. Like, they will play TCU again. They're at Clemson, versus Notre Dame, at Pittsburgh, at Duke, versus Miami, against Louisville. I mean, there's a very good chance that this season might have gone off the rails by that point in mid-November. Louisville plays to the level in which we think that they could play, could be a blowout in Chapel Hill. The Cardinals will conclude the home schedule on November 21st against Pittsburgh. It is senior day on that Saturday. They defeated the Panthers last year. The 4th game of the season was not a great performance, but the Cardinals were able to overcome adversity. Pittsburgh went 8-5 a season ago. The main issue with Pat Narduzzi's teams, I should say plural, every year, they just can't put it together for a full season. Like, half the season, they look like one of the best teams in the conference. The other half, they look like one of the worst teams in the conference. Like, they started out 2024, they were great. And then they went on a slide to end the season. Lost to Louisville in late November of that year. 2025 started out tough. Then they were able to put it together. Mason Heinschel had a good, honestly, great freshman season at quarterback. He's back for a sophomore year. Their rushing attack is going to be solid. Skill position shouldn't be an issue. They're replacing some key guys, but shouldn't be an issue. Offensive line should be serviceable. The defense, Pat Narduzzi's defense usually is very aggressive. They're going to get after the quarterback, but that opens up opportunities to create large plays. It's one of those games that's really hard to tell because Pittsburgh, if they start out the season strong, they might end it in a bad way or vice versa. But I think Louisville wins this game. I think Louisville ends the home slate on a positive note. They get that senior day W. Pittsburgh's going to be a tough team. And then there was one, week 13 at Kentucky, Governor's Cup Saturday, November 28th in Lexington. Kentucky, I just don't know how Will Stein is going to be as a head coach. It's hard to tell. You never know until they actually coach the games. Like, even though he was a great coordinator, is that going to translate to being a good head coach? The issue for the Wildcats is that they have one of the toughest schedules in the country. Could we get to a point at the end of the season where the program is just kind of mentally checked out and they're ready to end the year? Or because it's a new era in Lexington, they get up for this rivalry game and maybe the season is going a little bit better than expected and there's some confidence on November 28th. I don't think this is going to be the greatest year for Kentucky. They got the tough schedule. Like Louisville, they've got a question mark at quarterback. Kenny Minchie, career backup at Notre Dame. He's the starter for Kentucky. There's a lot of optimism internally at UK that he's going to be a very good quarterback in the SEC, but we won't know until he plays. Offensive line, they went out and rebuilt in the portal. Skill position, it's all about staying healthy. CJ Baxter from Texas is the projected starting running back. You've got Nick Anderson from LSU, who could be the starting wide receiver one if he can stay healthy. So how good they are offensively is probably going to depend on play calling, because Joe Sloan calling plays last year led to one of the worst LSU offenses in program history. But B, got to stay healthy. Defensively, you don't have the star power that you might have on offense, but went out and added some solid players in the secondary. Up front, there's some talent. Pass rush is a major question mark. But I don't know what to think of Kentucky. I do think that Louisville does beat Kentucky even on the road, but I just don't know how the Wildcats are going to play, and it's hard to even predict it. We'll see week 2 against Alabama just how good this Kentucky team potentially could be. But overall, key themes for each section. The first section, Cards must get off to a fast start. Key theme for the month of October, interesting October. Key theme for November, avoid the late season slump. Cardinals want to get to the college football playoff. They must handle business in all 3 sections of the schedule, with each of the 3 sections presenting different challenges. Coming up, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or later on in the month, we're going to rank the potential trap games. We're going to have official season prediction. We're going to rank the schedule, the toughest games we're going to rank. But that is going to wrap up today's episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Go Cards.